All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dion's Daily Dose, special edition. Here with my friend Shawn. Welcome, Shawn.
Thanks for having me.
And today we're going to be looking at what you said you think might be the longest confirmation hearing in history.
I don't know if not in history, but for this,
at least in your memory.
Probably, yeah. I was saying for the Trump nominees.
Oh,
is what
okay.
I meant to say.
Fair enough. But either way,
Yeah.
5.5 hours is my point. 5.5 hours this went on. Now, luckily, Shawn has watched all 5.5 hours.
I got through like 4 hours.
Okay.
I didn't get
Damn
through
it,
the whole.
Shawn, you failed us. I'm just kidding. He watched over 4 hours of this. I think by the end, it's kind of getting to the point anyway. If there's something beyond what Shawn, I guess, time stamped for us, and you guys know about it, let us know. We'll make sure to cover it. But I think by the 4 hour mark,
a lot of times they start repeating.
Yeah, they start rehashing the same crap. But anyway, we're starting at the 5:18 mark. The name, this is from PBS News, and the name of it, let me just show you guys. There we go. Boop. Might help if I did that. There we go. Actually, let's put us down here. Watch live. Kash Patel testifies at Senate confirmation hearing for FBI director. That's the name of it. And we're going to start at the 5 minute and 18 second ish mark. And we're going to 10:21. So right at 5 minutes from Senator Grassley from Iowa or Idaho?
Iowa. You were right.
I knew it was an I, but I couldn't remember which of the two. All right.
He's been around a long time.
Yeah, he has, as you can see. I mean, let's face it, he's no spring chicken.
He was around when Reagan was president.
He was a senator then?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point,
he came in like 1979, I want to say. I
mean, at some point, dude, these people need to go, like, realistically, in both sides. Let's be honest, both sides. All right. We're going to get into this. Before we get started, what do you think is the biggest single takeaway from this, in your opinion?
How much the Democrats do not want Kash Patel to be FBI director.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just that, Trump nominated him, so we're going to fight it with everything? Or do you think that there's more to it this time?
I think it's a little bit of that. And I also think it's a little bit that he will change the culture in the FBI. If he's confirmed. It's not even looking like I'm still up in the air.
You said you thought it would be very difficult to get him through. You thought he would be in trouble, and it seems like you might be right.
We'll see.
But I agree with you. I believe that Kash Patel will absolutely implement what Donald Trump wants, which is a change, a shift in the culture. All right, here we go. We're going to get started with Senator Grassley from Iowa. Oh, might help if we put our earbuds in so we can actually hear it. Here we go.
Looking them in the face. Public trust in the FBI is low. Only 41% of the American people think the FBI is doing a good job. This is the lowest rating in a century.
Wow.
It's no surprise that public trust has declined in an institution that has been plagued by abuse, lack of transparency, and weaponization of law enforcement. Nevertheless, the FBI remains an important, even indispensable institution for law and order in our country. It's the people on the top floor of the J. Edgar Hoover building, not your local FBI agents that have caused the low approval rating.
I'd agree with that.
Mr. Patel, I know you know this, but it's your job to restore the public trust and return the FBI to its core mission of fighting crime. Your extensive background gives you a unique position to make this happen. Mr. Patel's career has been a study in fighting unpopular but righteous causes, exposing corruption, and putting America first. For almost a decade, Mr. Patel served as a public defender, defending the constitutional rights of some of the least popular people in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
After serving as a public defender, Mr. Patel joined the Department of Justice under President Obama as a counterterrorism prosecutor in the National Security Division. In this role, he investigated and he prosecuted many important cases, including the World Cup bombing in Uganda in 2010, for which he received an award of excellence.
See, I didn't
In
even know about that.
2017,
I didn't either until I saw
Representative
this.
Devin Nunes asked Mr. Patel to join the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence to uncover the truth about Russiagate. And Mr. Patel did uncover the truth. It was during this period of time that, if you remember, I first met you, Mr. Patel. Through tireless works, Mr. Patel showed that Crossfire Hurricane was based upon fraudulent, discredited information paid for by the Democratic National Committee
Yep.
and the Clinton campaign. As reward for his efforts to uncover the truth, mainstream media, can you believe this, personally attacked Mr. Patel.
Yep.
And the FBI secretly subpoenaed his records. Now, I know what that is because my staff received similar treating during my investigation. The attacks Mr. Patel faced during his work in the House of Representatives are similar to the ones that he faces today. I expect many of these underhanded attacks will be repeated today.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Patel has been
Is that what you saw? Yeah. It's about to get interesting.
Oh yeah.
accused
Wait
of,
till you see Durbin.
and
Oh, God.
of having, quote unquote, an enemies list. This is not a fair characterization, as he stated, quote, there is no revenge list, end of quote. Mr. Patel has identified those he believes have put politics and personal ambition over service to the country. He's called
That's how it
out
should
those who've used the institutions like the FBI to achieve their own personal gain.
Right.
Mr. Patel has said he believes that people who do this should be named and that Americans deserve transparency.
Here's the thing. We're not talking about like journalist sources. We're talking about so-called public servants who work for us.
Yeah.
We should absolutely know when these people are violating their oath.
Uh-huh.
So that they can make their own judgment as they did in this last election.
Mm-hmm.
Other attacks against Mr. Patel are similarly unfounded. To take just one example, he's been accused of jeopardizing hostage rescues. In fact, those allegations have been repeatedly shown to be false smears.
What?
Yeah, I never heard that before. But
I hadn't either. Apparently, they're claiming that he somehow sabotaged a hostage thing.
that's what they claim. I'm not sure the details.
Is that in the clips anywhere where they mention it or bring it up?
That's the only time they brought that up.
Interesting. That is interesting. That's the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
That's something, if true, obviously it would be a concern, but according to Senator Grassley, it's been debunked.
Has numerous national beach rescues. In fact, those allegations have been repeatedly shown to be false smears.
Okay.
As numerous national security officials have said publicly and on the record, Mr. Patel played a critical role in returning Americans safely home and has done so through hard work and personal cost to him.
Okay. I mean, pretty straightforward from the chairman here talking about Kash Patel. It's like Cash Yap, I guess is his first. Cash Yap? Is it Cash
I
Yap
think
or
it's
Cash Yap? Cash Yap or Cash Yap?
I think it's Cash Yap.
Okay.
I
know
think,
it's
I'm not sure.
Kashyap or something, but
I've only
either
been-
way, everybody calls him Cash, and that's what we're going to call him. Okay, so our next clip is one of my personal favorite people in the whole widest world, and that's Senator Dick Durbin
from the state of Illinois.
Illinois. Yeah, I know it's Illinois. I know. I live next to it. All right. So 2330. Hold on a second. My monitor turns off when my mini fridge turns on. That's new. It didn't do that before. So I got to change some stuff around. All right. It's okay. I got it fixed. All right.
Another minute.
Yeah. 2330. Okay. And this is Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois. And we're going 2330 to 2824. So about 5 minutes. Buckle up. Here we go.
Presidential nominees. A little history. The FBI dates back to the start of the last century, 1908, when then Attorney General Charles Bonaparte organized a special agent force. J. Edgar Hoover became director of the FBI in 1924 and led the Bureau for 48 years until his death in 1972. He is credited with professionalizing the Bureau and developing its investigative ability.
Which I'm just going to pause briefly and let you guys know. If you don't know much about the founder, well, the original leader of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, by all means, learn about him.
Oh, yeah.
Because let's just say skeletons, he's got a graveyard in his closet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, along with women's shoes.
Yeah.
And dresses and more. But he actually used the FBI to investigate people so that he would have leverage on them.
Yep.
That's how it started. Why should it be any different now? Because the wrong people are in charge.
However, with little or no oversight, Hoover also used the Bureau's investigative powers improperly.
But look at that.
He infamously directed the FBI to spy on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.,
Yep.
Thurgood Marshall, and other civil rights leaders of the day. In 1975, the United States Senate created Frank Church's committee, and they disclosed widespread abuses by the FBI and other U.S. intelligence agencies. The Church Committee concluded these agencies had engaged in illegal surveillance, and as a result, quote, groups and individuals have been assaulted, repressed, harassed, and disrupted because of their political views, social beliefs, and their lifestyles.
That sounds strangely familiar. Just saying.
And quote, the intelligence agencies have served the political and personal objectives of presidents and other high officials. The Hoover era of the FBI, the Watergate scandal, and the findings of the Church Committee highlighted the risk of political interference in FBI investigations and led to significant, important reform. In 1976, Congress passed a law that limits the FBI director to a single term of 10 years, which was intended to insulate that position from political influence. And critically, we made the FBI director's appointment subject to the advice and consent of the Senate. That's why we're here today. Since 1935, the motto of the FBI has been fidelity, bravery, integrity. These qualities represent the Bureau's core values.
And I want to make sure everybody understands. Like Dick Durbin, he said, the problem with the FBI, or maybe it was Grassley. It was Grassley. The problem with the FBI isn't the everyday field agents.
Yeah,
those guys are just doing their jobs, and they, much like me, probably had a glorified view of the FBI from our media, from Hollywood, and as such went into it with a certain set of expectations. And the leadership, on the other hand, wow,
And I think it's like that in a lot of departments. Like the CIA
I
is
think
probably
you're
like that
absolutely
too.
right. Yeah, the CIA. We tried to save the agency with Pompeo. Let's just say I don't think it worked out.
No, Pompeo
I don't
wasn't.
think it worked out. I heard they confirmed the new CIA director. Who is it? Do you remember?
Let me think this I did.
It'll come to you. We'll continue.
And the
I
high
can't think of who it
standards that
is.
are expected of all of its employees, including the director of the FBI. After meeting with Mr. Patel and reviewing his record, I do not believe you meet this standard. Mr. Patel has neither the experience,
John Ratcliffe.
That's it.
the temperament,
Former
nor the
Congressman.
judgment to lead an agency of 38,000 agencies and 400 field offices around the globe. During the time I've served on this committee,
Think about that really just for a moment. 38,000 people work for the FBI.
Yeah.
Did you think the founding fathers ever imagined that we'd have a federal police force of 38,000?
No,
They
there's a
were
lot of things.
wholeheartedly against that.
There's a lot of things the founders didn't.
Oh yeah, that they were
Like
they
the
were
huge
very much
bureaucracy.
against. Like what?
The huge bureaucracy, and
Oh yeah,
they didn't think that we needed term limits because
Mm-mm.
people would just go home eventually.
right.
But yeah,
Mhm.
and
Right.
now here we
Here
are.
we are. Whoops.
I've had the opportunity to consider 4 FBI director nominations. Each one was a Republican, and I voted for all of them. My concerns about the director of the FBI are not partisan. As much as Republicans claim that President Biden and former Attorney General Garland weaponized the FBI,
Which they did. Look,
They
the
did.
Democrats can deny that bullshit all day, twice on Sunday. The reality is that everyday Americans saw what the hell was happening, and that's why we showed up to the polls to vote for Trump. They cannot come to terms with reality. They cannot understand why they frickin' lost. They just can't.
let's look at the record. President Biden kept the FBI director, a lifelong Republican who'd been appointed by President Trump.
Yeah.
Christopher
Let's
Wray.
be honest about that
Yeah.
guy. You can call him a lifelong Republican all you want, but the reality is he was not about transparency. Let's just leave it at that.
Contrast that with President Trump. Fired his first FBI director, James Comey,
He did.
forced out his second FBI director, Chris Wray, for being
Yep.
insufficiently loyal. With Mr. Patel, however, obviously the president has found a loyalist. Mr. Patel's loyalty includes touting conspiracy theories that threatened efforts at President Trump's enemies.
What did you just say? Dude, read. It's not that hard, my guy. Holy
Come on,
hell, that threat. Hold on.
Touting conspiracy theories that threatened.
Come on, Durbin.
Right. You'll get there eventually, man. It's okay. It's all right. I know you're still on the different time zone, but
efforts at President Trump's enemies. How do we know Mr. Patel's theories, his beliefs, what motivates him, what he really believes? He wrote it in a book.
dun, dun,
This
dun.
book, Government Gangsters, I urge
Dun, dun,
all of you
dun.
to read before you.
Yeah, read it. Government Gangsters. It doesn't look that long. Have you heard of this book?
I have.
I hadn't. Did you? Have you read it?
I have not read it,
No.
but I've heard of it.
Yeah.
He's a pretty frequent guest on Fox News, Kash
Okay.
Patel. So I've seen him quite a few times.
Fair enough. I know that there was a huge push for him to be the nominee for
Yeah.
FBI director.
Trey Gowdy, the former congressman, have you heard of him?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
From South Carolina, has been helping him a lot
Interesting.
and have
Okay.
put his endorsement, which pushed a lot of Republicans to.
Oh, Trey
go for
Gowdy
it,
endorsed him. I know he had a shitload of endorsements. I don't know what all of them are, but interesting that Trey Gowdy endorsed him.
Cast a vote for this gentleman. Mr. Patel has published at the back of this book a list of 60 people whom he calls, quote, members of the deep state. 60. This list includes many distinguished public servants who've dedicated their lives to our nation. Among them are Democrats and Republicans, including former Trump administration officials like the former Secretary of Defense Esper.
So it sounds like it's not a partisan list.
No, it's not. And
Yeah.
he's basically saying, how dare he do that?
Right.
It's not that big of a deal. But I guess with
it's a
Durbin-
huge deal.
I meant like
No,
making
to
it
him.
sound like
yeah.
it's bad.
No, I get what you're saying. That it's a huge deal that he published this list of names. I'm saying it's a huge deal that these parasites are suckling
Oh, yeah.
at the taxpayer teat in order to push their policies, their agendas.
Then there is Mr. Patel's plan to quote, and I quote him, shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one, reopen it the next day as a museum of the deep state.
I think it was a joke.
And he said, quote, we're going to come after people in the media. We're going to come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly, we're putting you all on notice. Does this sound like the kind of nonpartisan law enforcement professional who should lead the FBI? Not to me.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So he wrote a book talking about the deep state and how corruption is running rampant. He published a list of names that are government employees that work for us that are implementing their own policies in opposition to what they're ordered to do. So basically not fulfilling their oath. And this is a bad thing to him
that's what
because he's exposing their bullshit.
I wonder
That's
if his
exactly
name's
what
on
it
the
is.
list. I should vote sometime.
The list?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll bring it up. We'll bring it up at the end. I'd like to take a look at the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going on to Senator Tillis from
North Carolina.
North Carolina. See, that's what I mean.
He's being
man.
a witness for
He's on
Kash
point
Patel.
with this. Okay, so 3808.
Yep.
Look at that.
He's
Okay.
not part of the committee.
Senator Tillis is just
He's a witness.
He's a
to-
witness for Kash Patel.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going from 3808 to 4001. So right at 2 minutes. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, colleagues on the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's my honor to introduce Kash Patel, President Trump's nominee to be FBI Director. I've completed due diligence on his life and career, and I'm convinced that Kash possesses significant expertise and ironclad commitment to justice, and he's an outstanding choice to lead the FBI. Kash's parents are Indian immigrants of Gujarati ancestry. They're up here in the front row. The Gujarat state is a melting pot of religions, including Hinduism, Islam, Jainism, with temples, mosques, and other religious sites scattered across the state. His father was raised in Uganda, but his family had to flee the country to escape repression under Idi Amin. His mother was born in Tanzania. They met and married in India and ultimately made their way to New York City by way of Canada, where his parents, along with 7 brothers and sisters and their spouses and at least a half a dozen kids, lived under the same roof.
Cool.
His parents raised Kash in the Hindu faith, and they instilled in him the values of hard work and education. Kash is a devout Hindu, and consistent with his faith, he's shown respect to people of all faiths. Kash attended the University of Richmond, where he earned his bachelor's degree in criminal justice and history. He went to Pace University School of Law, where he earned his JD, and an international law certificate from the University College of London, Faculty of Laws.
Wow.
Kash began his career as a public defender in Florida, where he led or co-led more than 60 jury trials in state and federal court.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a huge family, man.
Yeah.
All under the same roof. I hope that was a decent sized house because yikes. Okay. We're going to move to 4426 and we're going to 4456.
Kash
the
being
swearing
sworn
in of Kash Patel. Once again, 4426. And this, I won't say it's long, but it's a sizable viewing, I'd say. Now compare that to 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's not that long. All right. Let's see. 44:26. I said, whoops.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Before I swear you, I want to make clear that before you give your statement, if you want to introduce family and friends in the audience, you're welcome to do that. Would you please stand?
Okay.
Raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give to the committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You may proceed.
Now his opening statement.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to jump right into Kash Patel's opening statement. And it is from here, 44:57 to 49:55. So about 5 minutes. Here we go.
Chairman Grassley, Ranking Member Durbin, and members of the Judiciary Committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear today. I must start with a word of prayer for the tragic accident that befell our nation last night, where we lost civilians and service members. I pray for their families. I pray for law enforcement and military personnel, and I pray for their souls, and hopefully God will find them peace in the near future.
That was the Black Hawk helicopter had collided with that small jet, which we still haven't heard a lot about on mainstream.
No, we really haven't.
News, if you think about it. We'll talk about that another time.
I'd like to welcome my father, Pramod, and my mother, Anjana, who are sitting here.
What is his dad's name?
I can't.
Hold on. There's no way I heard that. Hold on.
I'd like to welcome my father, Pramod.
Pramod. Okay. Thought he said something else. Thought it started with a C, and I was like, there's no way his dad's name Commode. There is no way. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's an Indian version of like Commodus, the Roman emperor or something, but still, there are words in other languages that mean something completely different, but sound like
Some of the same words we have.
the same words we have. Yeah. I had a friend who he went to Japan, and his name, the Japanese translation of it was like defecate or urinate or something. It was horrible. Poor guy. Poor guy. I don't remember.
And my mother, Anjana, who are sitting here today. They traveled here to get here from India. My sister's also here, Nisha. She also traversed the oceans just to be with me here today. It means the world that you guys are here.
That's
Jesse
awesome
Grisham.
family, man.
I wouldn't be here.
I don't know if
today
my family would come all the way across the ocean to see me get confirmed. I don't know, man. Plus, I'm not sure if I'd want them there. Like, think about the kind of crap the Democrats are going to say. Like, would you really want your family there? I mean, I guess they'd be watching anyway. It'd be nice to have them in the same room, I suppose, but still, man.
Out their guidance, their unwavering support, and their relentless love. When President Trump informed me of his intention to nominate me as the director of the FBI, I was deeply honored. Sitting here today, I carry not only the dreams of my parents, but also the hopes of millions of Americans who stand for justice, fairness, and the rule of law. My commitment to these principles is deeply rooted in my family's history, which has profoundly shaped my worldview. My father fled Idi Amin's genocidal dictatorship in Uganda, where 300,000 men, women, and children were killed based on their ethnicity, just because they happen to look like me. My mother is originally from Tanzania. She studied in India, as did my dad, and they were married there. They would later emigrate to New York, as the senator pointed out, where I was born. And we were raised in a household of my father's 7 siblings, their spouses, and at least half a dozen children. That's the only way we knew how to do things at the time in the 70s and 80s, the Indian way. But we would soon learn the American way. These values have shaped and been the driving force of my career in 16 years of government service. Protecting the rights of the Constitution is of the utmost importance to me and has been every single time I've taken that oath of office. The recent terrorist attacks in New Orleans tragically claimed the lives of 14 innocent Americans and serve as a stark reminder that our national security is at threat, both internally and externally.
Yeah.
The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Justice, where I served, play a pivotal role in securing our freedoms and our safeties for American citizens. If confirmed as the next FBI director, I will remain focused on the FBI's core mission. That is to investigate fully wherever there is a constitutional factual basis to do so, and to never make a prosecutorial decision that is solely the providence of the Department of Justice and the Attorney General.
Okay.
For the first 8 years after law school, I served as a public defender, first for Miami-Dade County and later for the Southern District of Florida. During that time, I represented some pretty awful human beings charged with some pretty heinous crimes. But what I learned there was the core value that has been enshrined in me since, that due process must be provided without bias to all Americans. And if we cannot provide due process to the worst, then there can be no due process for anyone. And our constitutional republic fails.
I agree.
And I will say that's probably one of the hardest jobs I can possibly imagine doing, is representing, because everyone has the right to a fair and impartial trial, which means there has to be a lawyer to defend this scumbag.
Yeah.
That would be hard, man. Knowing you're defending some sicko,
especially if you know that they did it.
Right.
That would be the hardest.
That would be very, very difficult. It's one thing to imagine or to believe that a person has been wrongly charged with a crime, because let's face it, it happens.
Oh, it happens
all the time. Don't let them pretend that it's very, very, very rare. It is not. However, like, what about these scumbags that did it, but they still deserve a trial? They still deserve an attorney that is going to represent them. And that hard, I mean, it has a hell of an effect on people.
And that's the hardest thing I've noticed for the next generation to understand, that even if people are the worst of the worst, they still deserve a trial.
Right.
Like, I've had that debate with people.
Yeah. It's like they
like,
think
we don't want the government just to pick up people and saying, you're guilty.
Right.
You're guilty.
That's why in America, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, so that the government cannot just perfunctorily, in other words, without any reason, declare you guilty and ship you off to some facility, like Patriot Act stuff. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
But I battled on that hill for that due process. I would later serve in the Obama Justice Department as a terrorism prosecutor in the National Security Division, where we successfully contributed to the prosecutions of terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and others. I was honored to receive the 2017 Assistant Attorney General's Award from Loretta Lynch for my work in helping the Ugandans bring members of Al-Shabaab to justice for murdering 74 innocent people, including an American. I would also receive the Human Intelligence Award from the intelligence community for related work on that mission. My experiences at the National Security Division and would later be followed by my experiences on the National Security Council as Senior Director for Counterterrorism, and later as the Deputy Director of National Intelligence, responsible for the production, creation, and promulgation of the Presidential Daily Briefing, our nation's most sensitive classified information and secrets to protect our country.
I mean, that's a pretty compelling resume.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, that's a very compelling list of accomplishments and experience.
Oh, yeah. He's had the experience to be FBI
I genuinely don't understand. Like, I get disagreeing with some of his statements or some of his claims that, this is this, and what they refer to as conspiracy theories, right? We need new ones because they keep coming true, though. Just saying. But to even suggest that this guy doesn't have the experience to lead this agency, I mean,
it's not a winning argument.
No.
But they're trying to find something.
They're trying to find anything to keep this guy out. Why? Why are they so against him? I would argue they're fighting harder against Kash than they are some of Trump's other appointees.
Yeah.
I mean, interesting.
They really don't want, they really didn't want Tulsi.
Yeah, they were heartily against Tulsi Gabbard as well, but she got confirmed.
Yeah, today.
Today. Dude, love me some Tulsi, man.
And now I think
About the only
Kennedy's-
Democrat woman I've seen, former Democrat woman I've seen that, I wouldn't kick out of bed. Anyway.
I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh yeah, Kennedy's. I think they're going to have his vote on Thursday or
All right.
tomorrow. So that'll be tomorrow.
Yep, tomorrow. All right. Well, hopefully Kennedy will get confirmed. It's just going to depend on these so-called Republicans and
Yeah.
whether they fall in line, because we got the votes.
Oh yeah, they got 53 Republicans.
My time, National Guard was my top mission.
Whoa.
What was that?
You saw that, right?
I did.
My time, National Guard was my top
That's a
mission
little weird.
priority. Not
Yeah.
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 That's weird. It's like
That was the That was the video YouTube thing. It
yeah,
wasn't
that was
us.
YouTube, not us. All right.
politics. And that was my top mission priority, not politics.
Yeah.
And that is my love of this country to protect our laws and our way of life. And it was no different. If there's any ever corruption, I have been the first to call it out. And I will continue to call out corruption in
Mhm.
government service because it is a privilege to serve this nation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I believe that's what they're terrified of. I really do.
Oh, he's gonna. If he can get through, he's gonna clean up the FBI.
Oh, yeah. He's going to just start whoop, 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 like
Right.
somebody in a pile of laundry just tossing stuff out. It's going to be glorious.
If he's confirmed,
If
it's gonna be
he's
up
confirmed.
to Susan Collins, McConnell, and Murkowski.
Yeah, that's the three. We'll see. All right. So we're going to move right into Senator Grassley, and that's 4956 to 5224. So roughly two and a half minutes.
Like 3 minutes.
Outside of this committee, and some people on this committee have accused you of promoting the QAnon movement. My colleagues have already asked your future boss, Mr. Bondi, many questions about this. I think it's easy to see these attacks for what they are, guilt by association. Are you a follower or promoter of QAnon?
No, Senator. In fact, I have publicly, including in the interviews provided to this committee, rejected outright QAnon baseless conspiracy theories or any other baseless conspiracy theories. They must be addressed head on with the truth, and I will continue to do that. And I will always continue to support Americans who support law enforcement, our military, and want a secure border.
Over the past 4 years, the FBI and Justice Department have weaponized law enforcement towards partisan ends. This has affected you personally. You, along with even members of my staff, were the victims of FBI overreach when they secretly subpoenaed your records during the investigation into
Yep.
Crossfire Hurricane. Inspector General Horowitz of Justice Department was right to say actions like this have a quote, unquote, chilling effect on whistleblowers.
Yeah.
How do you intend to make sure that this kind of misconduct never happens again?
Senator, this may be one of the scenarios that most uniquely qualifies me to take command at the FBI. Having been the victim of government overreach and a weaponized system of justice and law enforcement, I know what it feels like to have the full weight of the United States government barreling down on you. And as the Biden Inspector General determined, those activities by the FBI and DOJ were wholly improper and not predicated upon law and facts. I will ensure, if confirmed, that no American is subjected to that kind of torment, to that kind of cost, financially and personally. And most importantly, I will make sure that no American is subjected to death threats like I was, and subjected to moving their residences like I was, because of government overreach, because of leaks of information about my personal status. If confirmed as FBI director, Mr. Chairman, you have my commitment that no one in this country will feel that pain.
I believe him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I believe him. And I think he's absolutely right that if you are familiar with being the target of something, I do think that uniquely qualifies you as trying to stop it and trying to prevent it from happening. Here's the thing. Yes, the weight of the federal government is immense. There's so much power, like unlimited funds. You can't fight the federal government. So if they come after you with no probable cause and with no legal precedent, like, who's going to stop them? We saw it all during this previous administration. Okay, our next clip. Oh no, back to Durbin again.
Yeah, he's the ranking member.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to hear from Dick Durbin one more time. It looks like that's the last time. All right, so 52-25. So right into it to 57-15. So another 5 minutes of this showed. Here we go.
Durbin, yeah.
Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, I woke up this morning to National Public Radio,
No, of course you did.
and they had an item on there about what has happened to those who were given blanket clemency by President Trump. One of these individuals was a man named Matthew Huddle. Are you familiar with him?
I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
Matthew Huddle.
If you could remind me, Senator.
Well, I was reminded again this morning. He's a man who's been found guilty of numerous crimes. The one described this morning was an outrageous situation where he beat his 3-year-old child to a point where the poor kid couldn't even sit down for a week. Mr. Huddle was one of the demonstrators who came to the Capitol on January 6th. He was incarcerated and charged with, and pled guilty to crimes that he had committed, violence against police officers. After he was released by President Trump, he returned to his home state of Indiana. A few days later, he was stopped on the road, pulled a gun on a policeman.
You hear that was
The
happening
policeman,
in
sheriff's
Rensselaer or
deputy,
Devon,
turned,
Indiana?
shot, and killed him.
Yeah, it wasn't that far.
This is not the only instance of a person who received President Trump's clemency committing another crime. Peter Schwartz was mentioned this morning on the radio. 38 criminal convictions, 38. He'd been sentenced to 14 years in prison. He was released because of the president's unconditional clemency, which was given to him as well. So I guess my question is this. Was President Donald Trump wrong to give blanket clemency to the January 6th defendants?
Who's going to answer that? However you feel about it, who's going to be like yes or no? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You're not going to go against your boss because that's who the president is, even if you disagree. Because let's face it, I'm still about some of those, but 3 years, man. A lot of these people have been sitting there in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
In inhumane conditions for 3
And without
fucking
trial.
years.
Some of
That's what I
them-
was about to say. No trial, no nothing. No, that's ridiculous. And that's why he did it. Because how are you going to parse out who really did some heinous shit and who the Democrats set up for failure? Because 200 agents in that crowd, man.
Yeah, how
Like, come on.
Durbin's
Thank you,
trying to play
Ranking Member.
gotcha.
Yeah, of course he is.
A couple of things on that. One, the power of the presidential pardon is just that. The
Right.
president.
The president.
I concede he has the authority. I'm asking, was he wrong to do it?
And as we discussed in our private meeting, Senator, I have always rejected any violence against law enforcement, and I have, including in that group, is specifically addressed any violence against law enforcement on January 6th.
Mhm.
And I do not agree with the commutation of any sentence of any individual who committed violence against law enforcement.
Wow.
So do you think that
That I'm going to tell you, that was a ballsy statement. I have to give it to him. That took real character to come out and say that, because that's your boss you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. Okay.
America is safer because,
Committed violence against law enforcement.
so do you think that America is safer because these 1,600 people have been given an opportunity to come out of serving their sentences and live in our communities again?
Senator, I have not looked at all 1,600 individual cases.
And you
has?
know damn good and well that the vast, overwhelming majority didn't do anything.
Agreed.
They didn't do anything. They happened to be in the area.
And some of them just were walking through the Capitol.
Yeah,
not
some of
doing
them
anything.
literally just walked in because the doors were wide the
Uh-huh.
fuck open. Like, anyway, we all know at this point, at minimum, those of you who may be on the left that are watching this, really, seriously, don't listen to your TV about what happened on January 6th. Don't listen to mainstream media. By all means, watch the tapes yourself. All the videos out there.
Some of them, some people did do some bad things.
Oh yeah. I'm
I
gonna
condemn
say,
those people.
what's that?
I said I condemn those people
Right.
that did violence.
Absolutely. And that's what I said when it happened. I
Uh-huh.
said, if anyone is assaulting anybody, if anyone is actually damaging anything, then they deserve
Yeah.
to be charged.
But most of them did not do
the
anything.
vast majority,
I agree.
overwhelming majority. There was a
There was-
small portion of people who did some heinous shit.
Uh-huh.
They happened to get pardoned or commuted sentence. I was going to say commutation of the sentence, but a commuted sentence by the president when he did this blanket action, and that's his right. But we can go, not so much on some of them.
I have always advocated for imprisoning those that cause harm to our law enforcement and civilian communities. I
Yeah.
also believe America is not safer because President Biden's commutation of a man who murdered two FBI
Uh-huh.
agents, Agent Kohler's and Williams' family, deserve better than to have the man that point blank range fired a shotgun into their heads and murdered them released from prison. So it goes
Uh-huh.
both ways.
Leonard,
And that's absolutely right. They want to sit here and talk about, oh, do you think Trump letting these guys go? When Biden, some of the people he did were heinous as hell, dude.
Uh-huh.
There was Chomo in there too.
Uh-huh.
Pelletier was in prison for 45 years. He's 80 years old and he was sentenced to home
It doesn't
confinement.
matter,
So
dude.
he's not free, as you might have just
He
suggested.
killed two FBI agents.
That's
That's
true. He
unacceptable.
did. And he went to prison for it and should have. My question to you, though, is do you think America is
Okay,
safer
Durbin.
because President Trump issued these pardons to
You notice how he just steamrolled over. Yep, he killed people. Yep, he went to prison. But it's okay to let him out now because he's 80? I don't know, dude. I met some 80-year-olds that whoop your ass. I'm just saying, like especially some of these former Marines, like you'll lose that.
They're not all like Biden.
They're not, that, you know what? That's a phenomenal point right there. They're not all like Biden.
1,600 of these criminal defendants, many of whom violently assaulted our police in Capitol.
Senator,
Yeah, you can say it as many times as you want, and it's still not true. Many of 1,600
Oh, okay, I didn't
is
hear him say.
absolutely false. Many of them is not true.
I didn't hear him say many.
Yeah, he said 1,600, and many of them are
Strong majority did. nothing.
Exactly. That's the thing. The vast majority didn't do any of that.
America will be safe when we don't have 200,000 drug overdoses in 2 years. America will be safe when we
You're
don't have
not gonna answer the
50,000, 50 homicides in a
So
day.
you just won't answer the question.
I
I'm
am
going to say,
here.
I don't think we're safer. Matthew Huddle was Senate
You know
President.
the names.
I don't think we're safer with Peter Schwartz. I could go through a long list of individuals, some of
If you
the
wanna use your time that way, knock yourself
members
out.
of this committee. Let me move to another topic if I can. Tell me about your J6 choir. What is that?
Well, it's not my choir. It's simply a recording that was utilized to raise funds for families in need of nonviolent offenders.
Who sings on this recording?
I don't know, Senator.
What did you have to do with it?
Simply to raise funds to assist families of nonviolent offenders whose kids needed college education payments and whose rent needed being paid.
My understanding is that the performers on this J6 choir were the rioters who are in prison.
I'm not aware of that, sir. I didn't have anything to do with the recording.
You weren't aware of who made the recording?
No, Senator.
That's interesting.
That's interesting, he says.
Interesting.
Okay, so what you want to talk about that? Do you know about this J6 choir thing?
This was just that I doubt the money. I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, I don't know much about it either. And he was in What little I do understand is he was contacted by a group who said, look, we're trying to raise some money. Will you help? And he went, who are you raising money for? And they said, the nonviolent J6 people who have been locked up without a trial, without any kind of anything.
Due process.
Yeah, no due process. And we're trying to pay our rent. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. I see no issue there. I don't give a damn who was singing. It doesn't matter.
He's trying to make anything he can
Oh,
so that he
absolutely.
Can't get nominated
That's what
or
they do.
Confirmed.
Okay, so we're going to go on to Senator Graham.
Yep.
10154.
From South Carolina.
Good old Lindsey Graham. Oh, boy. Mhm. All right. And that, once again, 10154 to 10552.
Now, I think the reason you're here has a lot to do with your work on Crossfire Hurricane. Are you familiar with that FBI operation?
I am, Senator.
So Senator Durbin
Very
mentioned the church report and the history of abuse, but he failed to mention Crossfire Hurricane.
Yeah, I wonder why.
He failed to mention the Horowitz report.
Wonder why.
Wonder why. If you're waiting for these guys over here to figure that out, you're going
Right.
to die waiting. So
Yeah.
this is the Nunes memo. You work for Mr. Nunes over on the
Sorry?
House side. David Nunes.
Sorry?
I mean, Devin News.
Are you familiar with this memo by the Foreign Intelligence Service Act abuses
Yes.
the Department of Justice?
Absolutely.
Did you help write this memo?
I did as a staffer.
Okay, I'm going to put this in the record.
Thank you.
And this memo,
He handled it right. Excuse me, because he got the name wrong, right? He called it what? Damon Nunes? David Nunes.
I think
yeah.
he said David and it's Devin.
Devin, right. So yeah, that was the right way to do that. Excuse me, Senator. Just to make sure, so
No
he changed.
misunderstanding.
Yeah. Because you say, oh yeah, I wrote that memo by David Nunes, and then the Democrats go, you perjured yourself.
memo, you kind of dissected the abuses of Crossfire Hurricane, right?
I did, Senator.
And the Mueller investigation. So the Crossfire Hurricane investigators, two of them were Strzok and Page. Are you familiar with them?
I am, Senator.
Oh, these two
Okay.
friends.
It was opened up on July the 31st, 2016. And here's what Strzok said. And damn, this feels momentous because this matters. The other one did too, but that was to ensure we didn't F something up. This matters because this matters. So super glad to be on this voyage with you. That's to Page. And Page responds a couple of months later, he's not ever going to be President, right? Talking about Trump. Strzok, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Is it fair to say that the people in charge of investigating Crossfire Hurricane hated Trump's guts?
Well, you don't have to take my word for it. That statement, along with the statements from the sources.
Are
during that
those days
operations-
over in the FBI, you hope?
Well, if they're not, they will be.
Okay, good. You know who Carter
All right.
Page was?
I do, Senator.
Do you know that the FBI secured warrants against him on 4 different occasions?
Yes, Senator.
Do you know that the information that they relied upon came from the Steele dossier?
I do.
Was it you that were able to find out that the Steele dossier was a bunch of crap?
Yes, Senator. We followed the money and we exposed the fraud that was the Steele dossier.
And the primary subsource was Ignor Danchenko, right?
That's correct, Senator.
And he was actually a Russian analyst.
That's right.
Are you aware that in January he told the FBI that let's see, what did he tell the FBI? Still had no proof to support the statements, then it was just talk. The primary subsource explained to the FBI that his information came from word of mouth and hearsay, conversations he had with friends over beers, and some of the information were statements he heard made in jest. And he told the FBI this in January
That's
of
right.
2017. And they got 2 more warrants after that.
That's correct.
Are you aware that the FBI had volumes of information that the Steele dossier was a bunch of bullshit and nobody ever told anybody at the top?
Right.
I am, sir. We exposed.
Or they lied about being told.
That's correct.
Yep.
So are you aware of the fact that the FISA court rebuked the FBI? Are you aware of the fact that an FBI lawyer went to jail because he misled the court by manipulating a email from the CIA.
I am.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah, Ciarello or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. I'm not 100% sure on the name, but I do remember him going to jail for it, or at least.
Do you
getting
believe that
charged.
Crossfire Hurricane was one of the most disgusting episodes in FBI history of a corrupt investigation led by corrupt people who wanted to take Donald Trump down?
Yes, sir.
You think that's why you're in this chair today, to fix that?
I think that's a big part of
Without
the
Crossfire Hurricane, this guy wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's true.
And my
Yeah.
He's right. I mean, it's kind of interesting if you think about it. Funny how things work out in the end, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Almost like there's some grand plan or something. I'm just saying. Okay, so we're done with Senator Graham. We're moving on to Senator Cornyn. Is that how I say it?
Cornyn.
Cornyn, Coryn.
Yep.
Okay. They are from
Texas.
Texas. Good old Tejas. All right, and that is 11806. To 12532. Senator Cornyn.
Senator.
Welcome, Mr. Patel.
Cornyn.
Do you believe America is an exceptional nation?
It's the greatest nation.
Your family went through a lot to get here,
They sure did.
and your life story is, I think, a great example of people pursuing the American dream.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you believe what a large part of what makes America an exceptional nation is the rule of law?
It is one of the fundamental precepts that determines that.
And
Yeah.
why is that?
Because without a singular application of a rule of law, we go back to the Uganda that my father fled in Idi Amin.
I believe that the two most important institutions in America to preserve and protect and enforce the rule of law are the FBI and the Department of Justice. And the sort of politicalization that Senator Graham and others have already talked about during the Crossfire Hurricane investigation or project of James Comey at the FBI and the abuse of intelligence tools like Title I of Section 702
Yep.
are a betrayal of American values and adherence to the rule of law.
Yeah.
And I think your biggest task is going to be, along with Pam Bondi at the Office of the Attorney General, is to restore the rule of law to the Department of Justice and the FBI. Are you willing to do that?
Absolutely.
And to restore the faith of the American people
Yeah.
in these institutions. Because let's face it, it's at an all-time low.
Absolutely, Senator.
Without regard to partisan affiliation or politics?
Absolutely.
Do you believe President
The audio keeps like going silent. It's
Yeah.
not, just so you guys know, it's on the video. It's not
That's weird.
us or our equipment. I made sure of that. No, I'm just-
Trump,
That is
as the
weird.
commander in chief, needs access to all of the lawfully available intelligence that can be collected by the American intelligence community in order to inform him so that he can make good judgments as commander in chief to assure the safety and security of the American people?
Having been responsible for the collection and predication and promulgation of that intelligence, I firmly believe he and every president must have it.
Yeah.
And so you would not support any impractical,
Sean's over here dropping stuff, just making a mess. I'm just-
My bad.
It's all good.
or perhaps immaterial or unworkable ways to inhibit the flow of that information to President Trump.
No, I would not.
So let me just ask you,
And that's an important point that some of you may or may not know. In President Trump's prior term, there were actually people who were intentionally keeping intel from
Oh,
the
yeah.
president. That's called treason.
Yeah. And there was a general who was telling Russia, I can't remember who it was.
Are you
Or if
talking
you-
about General Milley where he
I think
called
that,
China?
yeah,
Yeah. He called our enemies to tell them that he would not be, even if the president ordered him to attack,
that's what I
don't
was
worry,
thinking of.
I'll give you a heads up.
Uh-huh.
His counterpart in the Chinese army.
Can you imagine what China was thinking?
Dude, can you imagine like any other general doing that ever?
Uh-uh.
Like the sheer freaking cojones to actually do that. And if these people did nothing wrong, why did Biden give so many preemptive pardons?
Supreme Court's
You and I
definitely
have
gonna
talked
look at
about
that.
this a number
yeah.
of times, and this has come up before in a number of different contexts. But as I've always said, I think Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act is the most important law that most Americans have never heard of.
I agree.
But when I was questioning my fellow Texan, John Ratcliffe, who now has been confirmed as the director of the CIA,
Fingers
about-
crossed.
this,
How much do you know about him before we go on? Not enough, right?
Not enough.
Not enough.
A
Same.
little.
We should do a dive episode on him.
Okay.
Like, let's learn what we can and present it because I don't know much about him.
Okay.
I have followed him on social media and I've always loved his takes.
I
But
know.
that's all I know
I know he was a congressman.
from
I think
Remember?
he's from Texas.
Texas. Okay. It'll be, yeah, that makes sense because as he said, my colleague. So
we talked about some of the reforms that have been made to Section 702 over the years. This has been an ongoing conversation here in Congress. People like my colleague here, Senator Lee, and others have proposed reforms, which I think have gone a long way to help protect the privacy rights of Americans.
I'm just going to read through this. They're holding up a big sign. I'm just going to read it real quick for you guys that are not watching. Improvements made to Section 702. Prohibit U.S. person query terms solely designed to find evidence of a crime. I'm down for that. Increase damages by 10 times for violations of FISA involving a U.S. person. Interesting. Not opposed to that. Require the FBI to submit an annual report to judiciary and intelligence committees on U.S. person queries and require declassification of the report. I agree with that. Impose new compliance measures for FBI querying procedures, including mandatory audits, yes, higher level supervisory review and approval, yes, and protocols to prevent overbroad queries, yes. Amend FISA's foreign intelligence definition to permit more, I think it says effective counter narcotics
efficient.
collection.
Probably
More efficient, yeah, probably.
Senator Lee's head's in
Yeah, his bald, shiny head's in the way. That's okay.
Citizens. But let me just point out some of the improvements that have been made over the years.
I wasn't
This is
sure if he
not
was
the
gonna
same 702 that was in effect during President Trump's first terms. These are a number of things that we did together on a bipartisan basis to make sure that the balance between the national security interests of the American people and the privacy and constitutional rights of American citizens were protected. Do you agree with that?
Yes, Senator, I do.
And I think
Okay.
Senator Tillis, with his typical outstanding graphics, has a wonderful handout which lays all of that out. But one of the things that's come up, and we've discussed this, is the idea that in order to query lawfully collected intelligence under Section 702, that somehow if a U.S. person's name is involved, that a warrant would be required. Now, you're a lawyer who's represented defendants in as a public defender. You understand that what probable cause is required, what sort of evidence is required to be produced to a judge in order to get a warrant. Do you believe a warrant requirement is a practical and workable or even a necessary element of 702?
If I may just give some context on that, Senator. Having a background not only utilizing FISA and 702 as a national security prosecutor, but as a civilian at JSOC and later as an intelligence official and the deputy director of national intelligence, 702 collection formulates over 45% of the presidential daily briefing that you referred to earlier.
I actually have heard it's as high as 60%,
It
but
can-
anyway,
it can-
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a huge amount, man. Like you said, up to 60% at times. That's concerning.
And the issue for me is not with FISA and 702. The
Okay.
issue has been those that have been in government service and abused it in the past. And so we must work with Congress to provide the protections necessary for American citizens dealing with these matters, including hostage rescue operations in real time, which we use FISA collection to find and save American hostages. Having a warrant requirement to go through that information in real time is just not comportive with the requirement to protect American citizenry. I'm all open to working with Congress on finding a better way forward. But right now, these improvements that you've made go a long way.
Now, here's an interesting thing, right? This is someone who has been subjected
Yeah.
to the 702 and the queries, and that's how they got the warrants against them and all this, right? I am shocked in a good way that his immediate reaction wasn't to go, yo, get rid of all of that. He actually said, look, this is important for national security. We need to keep it. We just got to make sure that it's not abused. More power to him, man. Like, seriously, because I'd have been like, no warrant, gone. Like, and I understand there are certain narrow scope situations where, yeah, in order to save lives, like a planned terrorist attack, yeah. But unfortunately, it's the abuses of this very, very powerful tool that has led us here today.
Well, and Director Ratcliffe said that he did not believe that, given the context of 702 collection, whether a foreign target communicates with a U.S. person, that there'd be sufficient evidence to go to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court or any other court to demonstrate probable cause. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, just in real time, Senator, excuse me, it's almost impossible to make that function and serve the national no-fail mission.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you point out the lack of trust. Any of these tools can be abused by people who are willing to break the law or abuse these tools or violate the public trust. Director Ratcliffe again used, I thought, a helpful analogy. I'll see if you agree with it. He said the knives in your kitchen have a very useful and beneficial purpose, but they too can be misused.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, Senator.
And similarly, do you agree that tools like Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act can be used appropriately to protect national security, but they can also be abused by people who are willing to cross a line they should not cross?
They're both true, and that's why we need to work together to make sure Americans have trust again in these surveillance measures that we utilize to protect our country.
Like I said, I mean, that's impressive that he is willing to even say this has some use. Okay, unfortunately, our next clip, 126.56.
Senator Klobuchar.
Yes, indeed. Ugh. All right. And we have to listen to her for about a minute and a half. 2.5. I'm sorry. Well, no, 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's
We're going from 126.56 ish to 128.31. So about a minute and a half. Fortunately, it's a short torture. Here we go.
Officers in the Capitol who testified. We're asked about the police officers in the Capitol who testified in the January 6 hearings, and you accused them of lying. Is that correct or not correct?
I don't think that's accurate.
Okay, Joe Pack's podcast, March 2024, we'll put it on the record. I was there. The police officers were heroes that day.
Yes.
Did you post on your personal social media account in May of 2024, January 6th, never an insurrection, cowards in uniforms exposed. They broke the chain of command.
I believe you're referencing a post that was shown in part earlier. I don't have it in front of me.
And I don't think he was talking about the police on that occasion.
No.
I just want to be clear. Like, I don't know what was in his mind, but my interpretation is what we were talking about with General Milley. These people did not follow the chain of command.
No.
They did not report to the president. And we can rehash J6 all day long, but ultimately, I urge you to watch the tapes yourself, all of them, if you can, because there is so much that the TV does not talk about that happened, like the preemptive firing of tear gas into the crowd, stuff like that. And again, them opening the doors wide. Like, there's a lot, but it's a like calm, cool, collected guy like this. Because I've seen various clips, like some of these people are like at him, and he's just chill. He's just sitting there. I dig this guy, man.
You posted it and it was on your account. And we will again put that out there once more as we go on. I don't want to lose any more time on this, but every one of these, there's a record of it and you haven't answered. You promoted a COVID vaccine reversal or detox supplement. One scientist said, I quote, "None of these substances in any form would minimize side effects from a COVID-19 vaccine." That is preying on innocent people. Did you perform clinical trials before you made that claim?
I'm not a doctor, so no.
But you did promote this supplement and told people that it would reverse or mitigate the side effects from COVID vaccine.
Did I give people an opportunity to make an independent choice for what's best for their families? Yes.
You did that last year, correct?
I don't have it in front of me again, Senator.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That is a phenomenal answer. And that's really what he did, is give some information and let people make the choice that they felt was best for them and their family, which isn't that what's supposed to be about here in America? Like, make a decision based on as much available information as you can get. Unfortunately, our system has failed us. All right, we're going to move on here. We only have a few more, 1, 2, 3, 4 more short clips. We're out of here. All right. So our next clip is Senator Lee from
Utah. Republican from Utah.
137-28, close enough, to 138-47. So just over a minute.
Right.
Mr. Patel, while we're talking about your awards, let's talk about the cowards in uniform comment for a moment, can we?
Please.
Would you like to tell us what that was? Put it in context, help the committee understand what that was about.
I think it's important. Thank you, Senator. During that time on January 6th, I was serving as Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense. And days prior, we had received the authorization from the President to issue the National Guard to protect you and your colleagues. But as you know, the law requires a request before the deployment of that guard. That request did not come in until the afternoon of January 6th.
Yep.
Once that request came in, this, unfortunately, as has been confirmed by his own testimony, I believe, the Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, failed to immediately deploy the National Guard and instead took a break to speak to media and make personal phone calls. That endangered the safety of you and your colleagues. And if you look at the Biden Inspector General report, we at the Department of Defense authorized the fastest cold start of the National Guard since World War II and the largest occupation since the American Civil War. And the Biden Justice Department said that we, including myself, as Chief of Staff, when it came to the deployment and employment of the National Guard, acted swiftly and without undue delay.
So that,
I mean, what more can you say?
Yep.
That bear in mind that Nancy Pelosi was the one who didn't want the National Guard. And this has been like, this is widely known at this point. Okay. We're going to move on to Senator Coons.
Yep.
Coons.
Yep.
Coons. Okay.
From Delaware.
From Delaware. Okay. So 145.
Democrat.
About the 145 to 152.29. 152
The longest
29.
clip that we have left.
Yeah, the longest clip, and then the other two are shorter. Here we go.
What you've been nominated for is central to our security as a nation, central to the protection of our constitutional rights. And I voted to confirm Trump's previous FBI director, Chris Wray. I believe he's lived up to the Bureau's motto of serving with fidelity, bravery, and integrity. And I also think my vote for him and for many of Trump's cabinet in his first term shows I take my constitutional advice and consent role seriously and do not reflexively vote against his nominees.
Bullshit. Let's face it, Christopher Wray isn't exactly a shining beacon of conservative value. And he was made to be all this. He has either undergone one of the most interesting and unexpected sleeper cell activations, or he's not who should be in that position, and he did not do a great job. We'll just leave it there.
I look at three factors when I assess a nominee: qualifications and experience, policy views and whether they're in the best interest of the American people, and character and capacity to do the job independently where called for. My colleagues have referenced quotes from Attorney General Barr, National Security Advisor Bolton. The FBI is enormous, 38,000 agents, $9 billion budget. I am troubled by your lack of senior law enforcement leadership. We disagree on some important policy views, but the thing that bothers me the most is a whole.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you disagree with him on policy because it's not your fucking job, homie. The president appoints him. All you got to do is say yes or no. All these ridiculously long speeches about, and I think you're horrible. It doesn't matter. All of it's irrelevant. Vote yes or no. Let's move this along.
Series of statements you've made in a variety of settings that suggest you would struggle to be independent from White House direction or control, as has long been the modern history of the FBI. Who does the director of the FBI work for, Mr. Patel?
Senator, thank you for that question. The immediate report for the director of the FBI is into the Office of the Deputy Attorney General. Then that report is taken into the Office of the Attorney General and ultimately the White House and the chain of command there.
So the FBI works for the White House?
No, the FBI is a member of the Department of Justice and has been the longstanding application.
And who does the Department of Justice work for?
They're in the executive branch, as all members do at the White House.
Attorney General Bondi gave a different answer when I asked her the same question, that they work for the Constitution and the American people. President Trump's made clear in public statements he wants to use the FBI to persecute political adversaries.
He never said that. What he said was, I'm going to arrest all the criminals. That's what he said, and has said it multiple times. And we said, what the hell happened last time? But I digress.
Publicly said that folks ranging from Liz Cheney to Adam Kinzinger to former Vice President Harris should be investigated and criminally prosecuted.
If they broke the law, absolutely. If they broke the law, then they should be investigated and charged. And again, why do you need a pardon if you didn't break the law?
If President Trump were to order you to open an investigation into any of these individuals, let's say Vice President Harris, would you?
Senator, this question speaks directly to my ability to leave political bias and allow independent behavior to be the only guiding light. As a public defender, I learned that in the harshest of arenas. And any law enforcement investigation, if I'm confirmed at the FBI, will only be launched on the following qualification: a factual, articulable, legal basis to do so. The president has said publicly that he will allow the FBI to remain independent, and I have said as much as well.
So if FBI agents brought to you a factual legal basis, predication, and you are about to refer it to a prosecutor, and you get a call from the White House saying, don't proceed. This is a major donor. This is someone close to the president. This is inappropriate. What would you do?
Simple. I think you answered it partially in your question. The line agents, the brick agents who are trained to bring investigations on behalf of the FBI will make that decision-making process, and they will only have my full support so long as it upholds absolutely every value of the Constitution. And that's it.
So your predecessor, I went back and looked, and I asked the same questions of Director Comey and Director Wray.
And it always kills me how, like, let's face it, Comey, POS, Wray, realistically, what kind of job has he done as FBI director? But it always kills me with these people who, well, I asked your predecessor this, and they said, that's them. Why does that have anything to do with me? It doesn't. Everybody's different, man.
Director Wray, quoting former Attorney General Bell, said, you should be willing to resign if necessary over conduct if you're pressed to engage in it that's unethical, illegal, or unconstitutional. If pressed by the president, would you resign?
Senator, my answer is simply, I would never do anything unconstitutional or unlawful, and I never have in my 16 years of government service.
Would you be willing to resign the post of FBI director if pressed and given no choice but to obey the order or resign?
Senator, I will always obey the law.
Does obeying the law require you to, as Attorney General Bell said, as FBI Director Wray said, refuse the order or resign?
I'm not familiar with the extent of the law that you're referring to, but my answer is simple. In my 16 years of government service, we will simply follow the law. And I've done that in Obama Justice Department, in Republican Justice Department.
Because he wants him to say, oh, I'll resign before I do something that the president wants. He's not going to say that. Let's be real. He said consistently, I'll follow the law. I will follow the law. I will follow the Constitution, which is refreshing to hear someone actually knows what that document is. I mean, you know, the Democrats can't even figure out what a woman is, much less what the Constitution is.
In the Obama military, in Republican civilian capacity, I have never once wavered from my constitutional oath of office.
Mr. Patel, your predecessors in this role have been clear that they would be willing to resign if forced or directed to do something unethical or illegal. I'll proceed. One of your past statements that's concerned me, it's both a post.
He said, I'll follow the law.
Yeah.
I mean,
on Truth Social, and something you said in a podcast, the Shawn Holmgren report, that your predecessor.
You got to love the derision in his voice. Did you guys pick up on that? Listen to it again.
You said in a podcast, the Shawn Holmgren report.
Shawn Holmgren report. Yeah. Like it's beneath his notice. These so-called podcasts get far more views than mainstream media does.
Oh, yeah.
The CNN, dude, they're bleeding subscribers left and right. Viewers, what did they say on, I forgot, there was someone who was talking and CNN asked a question and they answered, that's why SpongeBob SquarePants reruns have more viewers than CNN these days.
Ouch.
Right? I was like, oh my God, emotional damage.
That your predecessor, Chris Wray, has broken the law. We need to prosecute him. The FBI should go after people like him. And the month before this, in July 2023, you said there should be a criminal referral for FBI Director Wray. If confirmed, are you going to follow through on these previous statements that Director Wray needs to be prosecuted?
Senator, this reminds me of the conversation you and I had, which I greatly appreciated. There is enough violent crime in this country and enough national security threats to this country that the FBI is going to be busy going forward preventing 100,000 overdoses, 100,000 rapes, and 17,000 homicides.
We agree that prosecuting violent crime should be the principal focus of the FBI. What I'm trying to get to, Mr. Patel, is a whole series of very troubling, to me and many other statements you've made about instead using it to pursue those who might be viewed as political opponents.
And as I told
what? I think it's somebody messing with the mic or something.
I saw Globochar for a second.
It
So
wouldn't surprise me.
told you in your office, I have no interest, no desire, and will not, if confirmed, go backwards. There will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken by any FBI should I be confirmed as the FBI director. I told you that in your office, and I'll tell you that again today.
Thank you for that
Told him
statement.
that
As the
3
co-chair of
times.
the Law Enforcement Caucus
What's that?
I said he tells him that over and over. He
Over and
doesn't wanna
over and over.
listen.
Yeah, he doesn't want to listen.
with Senator Cornyn, one of the things I've worked hard on, and I hope to continue being able to work hard on with this administration, is partnership between federal, state, and local law enforcement to pursue violent crime. You did say, as my colleague asked, and I look for a longer answer, that you want to close the FBI Bureau's headquarters on day one. How would shutting down the FBI headquarters impact its ability to prosecute violent crime and drug traffickers? How is that possibly a serious proposal? Mr.
Thank you
Patel?
for bringing that up and allowing me to answer. It was to highlight the significantly greater point that I was actually making in that interview, which is well documented over and over again. 38,000 FBI employees, 7,500 FBI employees work in the Washington field office and Hoover building alone. If you increase that aperture just slightly to encompass the National Capital Region, that is 11,000 FBI employees work in the National Capital Region. A third of the workforce for the FBI works in Washington, D.C. I am fully committed to having that workforce go out into the interior of the country, where I live, west of the Mississippi, and work with sheriff's departments and local officers, and having one agent prevent one homicide, and having one agent in Washington prevent one rape. And I will do that over and over and over again, because the American people deserve the resources, not in Washington, D.C., but in the rest of the country.
And Mr.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Wow. Okay. I know, shocking that someone says something that makes sense in one of these hearings. All right. The more I listen to this guy, the more I like him.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was
He's
kind of
intelligent.
at first. I wasn't sure about him because I didn't really know that much. I knew that Trump seemed to trust him, which is a good, mark in my book. But you never know, man. I mean, some of these people have seriously pulled some about faces, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at Barr. Whoa. Okay. Our next clip is Senator Josh Hawley.
Yep.
From Missouri.
Yep.
Yay.
You
Look,
remembered.
I did. All right. So 153-23. Senator Hawley, and this is going from 153-23 to 157-46. And then we only have one more clip for you guys. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, welcome. It's great to see you again. I enjoyed our conversation in my office a while back.
I'll say this about Josh Hawley, right? I don't know about anything about the man as far as his personal life or before he became a senator. No clue. What I will say, he has some excellent points.
Oh, yeah.
He speaks very well, extremely eloquent, very pointed, and he's gotten some really good viral moments and sound bites.
Oh, yeah.
That said, all these guys in there, including the ones we like, have been responsible for the fraud and waste in our federal government. So I'm trying really hard not to cut these guys too much slack. Just saying.
He hasn't been there very long, to be fair.
That's true. To be fair, yeah. Some of the more decent senators are those who recently showed up because they're trying to do something. A couple, like Rand Paul, they've been there a while.
Oh, yeah.
But at least they've been calling it out.
Oh, yeah. Rand's been calling out for years.
I
think Hawley's been
Let
there
me
since
ask you this.
2021. I think he came to 2021.
Okay. All right. So not that long at all.
Uh-uh.
I mean, just, one term. He's still in his first term. Okay. Well, in that case,
I was
we
going to
shall
say he's
see.
new.
Yeah.
Is it in my office a while back? Let me ask you this. Is it appropriate for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to attempt to recruit spies or informants into religious institutions in this country, particularly Catholic parishes? Is that appropriate?
I don't believe so, Senator.
Mr. Patel, are you familiar?
They're really doing that?
Yeah.
Trying to recruit spies, in the Catholic churches?
Is that what he said?
That's what he said.
Oh.
Hold on. Listen.
Catholic spies or informants into religious institutions in this country, particularly Catholic parishes. Is that
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, what?
appropriate?
I don't believe so, Senator.
Mr. Patel, are you familiar with the recent actions of the FBI in this regard, including this memo that I have right here, making a list of Catholic churches and parishes that they regard as potentially suspect and directing the potential recruitment of informants and other spies, let's be honest, into those parishes?
I'm familiar with that memo.
What?
Mr. Patel, would you commit to me that you will, if you are confirmed, that you will finally and officially withdraw this memo and make it clear that this is not only unacceptable, but that it is an absolute violation of the First Amendment that every American enjoys under the Constitution of the United States?
If I'm confirmed, Senator, yes.
Will you also commit to me that you will conduct an investigation and find out who wrote this memo, who spread this memo, the field offices involved in this memo? Because I can tell you, we've had your predecessor sit right where you're sitting, and he has repeatedly lied to, there's no other word for it, lied to this committee. He told us initially that it didn't happen, that the FBI didn't make any lists of churches.
Right.
That's not true. We have it. A whistleblower brought forward the list for us. He said then that only one field office had worked on it. Turns out we know from another whistleblower, multiple field office worked on it. He said that it was never posted on the internal system. It turns out it was. We believe it's still in effect. Will you find out who was involved in this gross abuse of Americans' First Amendment rights? And will you discipline them? And if you possibly can, will you fire them, Mr. Patel, consistent with department policy and law?
Senator, you have my commitment to investigate any matters such as this one that are important to Congress. I will fully utilize, if confirmed, the investigative powers of the FBI to give you the information you require and also to hold those accountable who violated the sacred trust placed in them at the FBI.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and I'm glad you use the word sacred trust, because that's exactly what it is. The FBI is the most powerful law enforcement body in this nation, arguably the most powerful law enforcement body, at least in a free nation in the world.
Okay.
I want to correct something.
Yeah.
I was wrong. He was first elected in 2018. So he is in his second term now.
So
he just won in 2024.
Okay. All right. So he served a term, learned the ropes, and just got reelected this past election, right? Okay.
For Senator Hawley.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. I will say he is definitely one of the more outspoken members of the Senate. Okay, so there is a big graphic behind him for those of our listeners. It says America needs answers. 1, who wrote the memo targeting traditionalist Catholics and calling for spies in parishes? 2, who wrote the memo targeting parents protesting critical race theory and gender ideology at school board meetings? Yeah. Who signed this? 3, who signed off on the FACE Act investigations and prosecutions of pro-life demonstrators? Number 4, who coerced social media companies to censor Americans' free speech? I want to know that too.
Yeah.
And to have this body corrupted politically such that it is targeting people of faith in this country and then lying about it to this committee and the American people is unimaginable. I'll be honest with you. I never thought this would happen in the United States of America. I just didn't. If you had told me 5 years ago we'd be reading memos like this, I would have said, no way, that's bad fiction. In fact, it's a horrible reality. The department needs to be cleaned up, the agency does, and rights restored and protected. I'm glad to hear you say that. Let me ask you this. Do you think it is appropriate for the FBI to be sending agents, including counterterrorism agents, to the parents of children who went to school board meetings and asked about critical race theory in their schools, asked about the school's masking policy during COVID? Should those parents be treated as domestic terrorists?
Parents who have the courage to ensure their children are taught what they feel is right, and those who have the courage of their convictions to go houses of worship, in my book, will never be domestic terrorists.
I'm delighted to hear you say that.
Right.
You're familiar, I am sure, with this memorandum issued by the Attorney General, the last Attorney General, Merrick Garland, directing the FBI and other law enforcement agencies to look into parents who went to these school board meetings, and we know from whistleblowers who've come forward to this committee and given us the evidence that in fact the FBI opened multiple cases against multiple parents across the nation, I believe including in my home state of Missouri, another gross abuse, incredible political power brought to bear against everyday citizens. Why? Because they went to a school board meeting that they're paying for and asked about what their kids were being taught.
God frickin' forbid. God forbid that you go to the school board that your taxes are paying for in the city that you're maintaining to ask them, hey, why are you teaching this to my children? And the FBI opens an investigation on you.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts, man. That's what I'm saying. We got to pull back from the edge. That's why they were absolutely serious when they said 2024 election was for the soul of this country. They were absolutely right about that. All right, we got one more clip from this that we want to show you. And unfortunately, it ends with this freaking guy.
Yep.
Blumenthal.
From Connecticut.
From Connecticut. This guy, holy crap. Isn't this the guy? This is the guy with Vietnam, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Stolen valor, all that. Wearing his little Ukraine and US pin, Anyway.
Make sure it is, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, because I got it wrong before. I was talking about Dick Durbin. Dick Durbin, he didn't do that. Blumenthal did that claimed he went to Vietnam and was in the jungle.
It was him.
Yep. All right. So suffice it to say that he doesn't hold a lot of weight, in my opinion. But all right, we got 202.13 to 206.39. So we got about 4 minutes, and then we're done with the hearing. We'll talk a little bit.
Welcome, Mr. Patel.
Sorry.
If he was a Republican, he would have never been elected.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. He'd have ended up like, what was the one guy they got with like campaign finance and all that stuff? Republican that, what was the guy's name? Like Garcia or so, I don't remember, but.
Are you talking about the guy from New York?
I can't.
They had expelled him from the house.
Yeah. It took away all his like campaign or not campaign, his committee assignments and just straight kicked him out, like removed him.
Yeah, he's expelled from Congress.
Gone. Yeah, person. Expelled. But they started with anyway. That's if he was a Democrat, he'd have been fine. And if Blumenthal was a Republican, I agree with you. He'd have never been elected.
George Santos.
That's it. All right, here we go with
Blumenthal.
Look at this creepy. Anyway.
Thank you for being here. And thank you for visiting with me in my office at almost exactly the moment that you were talking to me. The Department of Justice was firing more than a dozen lawyers who worked with the special counsel, Jack Smith, simply because they were involved in that case. You've committed that the FBI will not be politicized. So here's your first test. Will you commit that you will not tolerate the firing of the FBI agents who worked with the special counsel's office on these investigations?
Senator, I appreciate the time to visit with you.
It is a yes or no answer, and it is your first test.
Senator, every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments.
And I'm not going to accept that answer because
of course you won't.
If you can't commit that those FBI agents will be protected from political retribution.
Well, here's the thing. How can you possibly make a statement like that as Kash, right? How can you answer, oh yeah, I'll protect these people? And what? You find out they've committed a crime or something. Now all of a sudden you're a liar. Because you have to fire them. You find someone doing something illegal or wrong, you got to get rid of them. You're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't.
It's a trap.
Of course, all of these.
We can't accept you as FBI director.
You're not going to vote for me
employees
anyway.
will be protected against political
They
retribution.
those individuals deserve to be protected from Trump retribution. That was your first test. You failed it.
Oh, no.
by
And
saying all
that
FBI
is
employees should be
a-
protected?
That is a test of professional diligence
That is-
because it is the
He's a hell of a guy to be talking about professional diligence. I mean, come on, man. Don't you got some Charlies you're supposed to be chasing around right about now?
measure of whether you will
So
stand
full of it.
up and say no to the president if he gives you an unlawful or illegal order. Let me turn to
See, that's not what he asked. He didn't ask, what would you do if the president gave you an unlawful or illegal order? What he asked was, will you protect these people that you have no idea if they've done anything right or wrong? You have not had a chance to actually look at the files and see if they actually did anything, but I want an unmitigated, unwavering, I'll protect these people. Dude, get out of here. GFY.
the J6 choir.
Here we
You
go.
know who the J6 prison choir is, don't you?
It's been referenced earlier, yes.
And you know about the song that, in fact, you produced, you promoted, and you used to, as you put it, support, raise awareness and support for the political prisoners still locked in jail. Those J6 choir, were they political prisoners?
Some of the people locked up, a good number of them were in fact political prisoners. People who walked and didn't touch anything were political prisoners.
Or open the door.
Right. Come on, man.
I don't know everyone in the J6 choir.
That's
Right.
what you said.
That's
correct?
not how I read it, Senator.
No.
This is your tweet. That's your whole statement.
What he says is, and it's highlighted. I'm going to read the whole tweet and then I'm going to read the highlighted part. Hashtag J6PCJ. Hashtag, or excuse me, quote, justice for all, end quote, by the J6 prison choir and former President Donald Trump. This is highlighted. This powerful and moving song raises awareness and support for the political prisoners still locked in jail without trial following the January 6th protest in 2021. That's the end of the highlight. The rest of it says, J6 Prison Choir consists of individuals who have been incarcerated as a result of their involvement in the January 6, 2021 protest for election integrity. They have sang the anthem every night since being incarcerated. Let's help too. And then it's got a link to feature.fm. Choose your preferred music services so you can listen to the song. I don't read that as the people singing the song are without any degree of blaming. What I read in the highlighted portion is this song raises awareness and support for political prisoners still locked in jail without trial.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty straightforward. Of course, they're going to try to make it into something else, but the reality doesn't always fit the narrative. Look at this guy, man. This guy's like, please, just make it stop. Make it end. Look at those eyes. Oh, you poor, poor bastard. Look at him.
Yeah.
I bet he loves his job.
What's it? He had 3.5 more hours.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, man. Look at that. Oh, you poor, I don't know who that guy is. But my
Oh, he's
heart
probably a
goes out to you.
staffer.
Oh, look, I can't do that. They're going to accuse me of doing an Elon salute. So I can't say my heart goes out to you. What if I do this? How about this? A virtual hug.
That one guy's shocked.
Yeah,
The
he's
other
like,
guy-
oh my God, he actually unzipped.
Well, I'm
You
reading
won't
it now.
stand behind your own statements made in tweets, countless of them. As a matter of fact, as you put it to Steve Bannon on his show, then we went into a studio and recorded it, mastered it, digitized it, and put it as a song, now releasing it exclusively in the War Room. That was the J6 Prison Choir song.
And all proceeds were given away to charity to help families
And you
in
called
need.
them political prisoners. Julian Cater, do you know what he did?
I don't know who that is, Senator.
Well, he's one of the J6 Prison Choir.
You seem to know more about
identified
it
in a court file. And you're saying now you don't know who he is? You glorified him and the rest of that choir?
Come on, man.
He's the one who sprayed U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. Officer Sicknick died the next day.
Completely unrelated, I might add.
Uh-huh.
Now, agreed. The timing, yeah, that's, but the autopsy that they performed, it was like an aneurysm or something. It was completely unrelated. Because let's face it, if it was any way they could tie this back to J6, they would. They would.
They would have.
But they can't because it was unrelated.
Cater admitted his violence. He pleaded guilty to assaulting political
what? Dude, this guy.
Political officer admitted his violence. He pleaded guilty to assaulting
what? Political officer?
I think that's.
Is that like a commissar?
I don't
think
know.
so.
Assaulting a political officer, a police officer.
Police.
Do you believe that Julian Cater was a political prisoner?
Senator, I'm not familiar with this case. You seem to know a lot more about it than I do. And as I said repeatedly, I will always utilize my resources to help Americans in need, which is what I was trying to do here. And I've never once advocated for political violence or violence against law enforcement.
Ryan Nichols also pleaded guilty to assaulting a police officer. He was one of the J6 choir. He pushed the crowd against officers, defending a door to the Capitol, and sprayed officers with pepper spray. Is Ryan Nichols a political prisoner?
Same answer, Senator.
There you go. And it's really just 5.5 hours of this, of them going, but what about the J6 choir? And him going, dude, I did a favor for people. Like, that's what I did, and based on the circumstances at the time, I believed this. And so I did what I could to help them. I don't see that as that big a deal. All right. So I want to show you guys really quickly, in case you guys missed it. I really want you to see this. All right. In case you guys missed it, you should know that the Democrats are making promises they can't keep. They are threatening us with a good time.
I think you showed me this.
What do I mean? Let me show you. All right. Here we go. Etymology 101. Senator Schumer claims DOJ may go after the IRS and intelligence agencies next.
We know that unilaterally closing USAID is illegal. Donald Trump does not have the...
By the way, I think it's really important to address this. So this numbnuts constantly claims, along with some of these other unhinged Democrats, constantly claim that USAID was set up under Congress and it's this and it's that. That is incorrect. USAID was set up by John F. Kennedy, and it reports and is overseen by the Secretary of State. Period. The Secretary of State has complete authority over USAID. And you know who our new Secretary of State is?
Yep.
Who is it?
Marco Rubio.
There we go.
I had to take a second.
Yeah, it's okay. Rubio is not playing.
He is not.
He is not playing. He's in there with a wrecking ball. All right, let's finish this because it's interesting.
The authority to erase an independent agency created by Congress.
It was not.
Nor can the Department of State absorb USAID, especially because now there's basically nothing left to absorb. We also know this is just the beginning. If DOJ attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next. Or maybe our national security agencies.
So, what are the complaints here?
Right. Right.
This is awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It is awesome. And please uncover the waste and fraud
Yeah.
in our intelligence. You see, here's the thing that people misunderstand. Elon Musk cannot fire anybody.
No.
He doesn't have any authority to fire anybody. He doesn't have any authority to even cut funding. All they're doing, his job is to audit
And report.
to the president.
Yeah.
Hey, here's what I found. And then President Trump, via Secretary of State Marco Rubio, goes, yeah, no, no, shut that down. No, we're not having that. Oh, the guy get rid of that. Did you know that a tenth of the Medicare/Medicaid budget is being sent overseas? Almost $3 trillion is being sent overseas to people who aren't eligible for the program.
Why? Unfortunately, that does not surprise
Exactly.
Why?
Like $3 to $4 trillion with a T. It's insane to think about. Imagine how Medicare or Medicaid could be improved with that money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Social Security is going to be insolvent soon.
yeah. So there's another thing, right? Elon Musk was reporting and said some of these Social Security recipients are 150
I saw
years
that.
old. Well, that they like he said, call Guinness Book of World Records because that's older than the oldest living human.
Uh-huh.
Interesting, right? The same thing with a lot of these payments. They're just going to somewhere, someone, like billions, trillions. Now they're into the trillions that they have found for the American people. Now I heard that Doge.gov is actually populated now. Yeah. Okay. So I'll show you guys. Okay. So if you go to doge.gov, I love it. An official website of the United States government at the top, Department of Government Efficiency. The people voted for major reform. Dude, I love it. I love it. It's got
We need
savings, workforce, regulations, join, and about. Latest work. And then it talks about the stuff that they're doing. Look at that. 58 cancellations with savings of over $150 million in categories, including media, DEI, and consulting. This includes $405K at DHS for, quote, resilience, energy, and sustainability management program support services. Huh? It's word salad.
It is.
And yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, so this is what they're working on.
And then I showed you the
Look at that.
Doge
And then-
clock.
Yeah, I saw the Doge clock. If you click on savings, it says receipts coming soon, no later than Valentine's Day.
That'll be interesting.
Now, Elon has said, I am not infallible. I'm human. And I could be wrong about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But at least he admits that.
Uh-huh.
Workforce, meet the U.S. government. Trace your tax dollars through the bureaucracy. U.S. government, executive branch, head count, 2,252,162. Subordinate offices, 16,436. Total wages, $211.3 billion. Years of tenure. So less than one, all the way to 35 plus. It looks like the biggest 431,005 employees have worked here 5 to 9 years. in the executive branch, which means they transcend administrations. Some of these people, 77,000 employees have worked here 35 plus years.
So all the way back from the George H.W. Bush.
Yeah. Yeah. If not Reagan.
Could have been Reagan.
I mean, 35 plus. These are 30 to 34 years, 72,000 of them salary.
Years.
Yep. 60 to 70, all the way up to 280 to 300K.
We do a whole
Look at
show.
5,000 employees, 5,375 employees make $350 to $400,000 a year.
Wow, that's more than the president.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
that's a lot of freaking money, dude. The average employee is 47 years old. 125,147 employees are 65 plus years old. Aren't they supposed to retire?
Yeah, but did you see that how they retire?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, speaking of, if you
Yeah.
guys haven't seen it, there's a lot of controversy about this mine
Pennsylvania.
in Pennsylvania. That's where they do all of the processing of federal retirements. And it's all done by hand. It all comes down on a freight elevator, and then they process the stuff by hand.
And they said it takes weeks.
It takes weeks. And apparently there's like an upper limit as to how many they can do at a time because they're all doing it by hand. Anyway, so a bunch of claims were made, a bunch of community notes, right, were put saying, oh, this doesn't belong to the government. It belongs to this company. For other community notes to say, that's correct. It does belong to this company, but it's been leased to the federal government for X number of years. So they were right. So we got cabinet level agencies, 2 million people, 11,190 billion in wages. And look at all these departments, right? Health and Human
We could
Services.
do an entire show on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, we should. We should
We
just
do
do a
that.
show and break this down, man. Because there's so much here. I wanted to show a quick snapshot of it, but as you can see,
Let's do that next time.
yeah, look at this unconstitutionality index. This is the number of agency rules created by unelected bureaucrats for each law passed by Congress in 2024. So 18.5 rules per law. Look at this. 176 laws, 3,250 rules.
And part of the problem is that Congress, a lot of times with bills and stuff, give their authority away to the rule makers.
Yep. And then we
So
talked
Congress
about
needs
that
to step
before.
up too.
Yeah. Look at how there's so much here, guys.
Dang.
Like so much information. Load more Asia. All right. Yeah. We have to do this on another.
We can do this next time.
Yeah. I'd love to get into this. I think it's interesting. I don't expect me to start doing forensic auditing or any of that.
You're just going to do it by his website.
No, but I'm going to take a look at the website and we'll walk through it together and kind of click around. I got a new setup that allows us to do this much easier than Shawn trying to look over my shoulder.
Oh yeah.
He's got his own little viewing area now. So, all right, guys. Look, I had just so you guys know, I had an interview that I did with a local motorcycle club, and there were some rumors that were swirling around about some events that happened. I have an interview. He spoke. I'm getting it edited. Once it's edited, I'll be putting it out, and you guys can hear in his own words what happened. It squashes a lot of the rumors that are out there about this particular event. So anyway, that's it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. And again, you guys would not believe how much it helps me if you just click that like button. Seriously, it makes a massive, massive difference as to whether or not I'm shown on the For You page and all that crap. That's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. And without further ado, God bless you, God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. God bless.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Shawn Holmgren and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.